¿Cómo estás? It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about Hilaria Baldwin, or the woman who has been posing as a Spanish woman for the past 10 years who is not, in fact, Spanish. Wait, what? Yeah.
Married life is really nice. You know, it feels different. It really feels different, but I didn't think...
Yeah, we're going to get into it. But before we do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up. Also, subscribe down here if you have not yet subscribed, and turn those notifications on so you know when I go live or new content loads. Okay, so if you've been living under a rock, you might not know what's going on, but if you spent any time on Twitter, and recently on my Twitter today, now I mind you have tweeted about this quite a bit, mostly because I'm shocked, and secondly because I have a background in Spanish, and so I find this specific story to be right up my alley. If you don't know anything about me, I actually have a Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish Studies, with my focus being on Latin American culture. I was a Spanish student who actually went to Spain while in college and spent time in a very historic town called Toledo. During my time in Toledo, I lived with a family and I learned all about Spanish culture, and I absolutely love Spanish culture. I traveled all over the country. But during my time there, I promise you, I absolutely never claimed this country as my own. I have a fond appreciation for the Spanish culture, from their food to their music, to their artwork, to their history. And while I studied there, I spent a lot of time traveling around the country, fell in love with so many amazing cities, and really dove into the very historic city in which I was in, which was called Toledo, which was actually the first capital of Spain and has roots with Isabel and Ferdinand, king and queen of Spain. And they were the ones that were connected to Christopher Columbus. Because of my educational roots, I found this story to be 100% ridiculous. Okay, so Hilaria, or Hillary Baldwin is what I will call her now, because actually that's what I know her name to be. She was actually born Hillary. So Hilaria Baldwin, who was in the news last week because she was getting into a fight with Amy Schumer. Yeah, so Amy Schumer basically posted a photo of Hilaria, who had posted a photo of herself on her Instagram. So basically, Hilaria is like this yoga instructor who's married to Alec Baldwin. She's 36 years old. She's had 5 kids in like only a few years. And she and Alec are very prominent on social media. She has a podcast and she's a yoga instructor and she's very into fitness. She's also noted to consistently post bounce back photos where she looks extremely fit and completely perfect. And so last week, Hilaria Baldwin and Amy Schumer were going at it. Basically what happened was Amy Schumer reposted one of Hilaria's photos that Hilaria had posted on her Instagram. Hilaria is a fitness buff. She's a yoga instructor and she's extremely fit. And she just had a baby 3 months ago and she looks phenomenal. Now, she is noted to always post photos of herself sort of like after baby, showing her tummy and showing how she's like moved from, you know, being pregnant to not pregnant. And her bounce back body is always flawless. So Amy Schumer reposted her photo and basically implied that it was her. Sort of this joke that like, this is me with my son, but it wasn't really. Well, Hilaria didn't really like that. She got really irritated and she sort of put this Instagram post up where she sort of like stood up for herself and said that she was part of all inclusivity. Well, because of Amy's massive platform, 10 million to be exact on Instagram, Hilaria was kind of put into a position where a lot of people who didn't even really know about her found out about her. And which led to internet sleuths. So obviously internet sleuths can be really good at figuring out things of going on. And one thing that people noted when she was actually speaking in her video to Amy about body inclusivity was that her accent was different.
Talk about what happened with Amy Schumer. So she posted a photo, or reposted a photo of me with my baby, talking about this really cool cream that I helped develop and I'm super proud of and really excited about. And I've posted a million photos like that in the past, so didn't really think that it was going to be that big of a deal. Ended up being a big deal. Now, I love jokes. I think it was very funny. I actually don't understand it really well, the joke.
So what's with the accent? Well, here's the thing. Hilaria has said for many years, or claimed for many years, that she has a Spanish heritage. She has claimed that she was born in Mallorca, Spain. In fact, her IMBD and her own biography for her agent claims that she is born in Mallorca, Spain. She also says that her family lives in Spain. So people were obviously under the impression that she was Spanish. She also speaks both Spanish and English, and she has done interviews with multiple outlets, including Hola magazine, and saying that her native language was Spanish. But her native language was actually not Spanish. Her native language is English. Wait, what? Okay, yes, it's true. In fact, Hillary, born Hillary Hayward Thomas, was actually born in Boston, not in Mallorca, Spain, and she grew up there. She actually graduated high school there, and she apparently spent time back and forth where she had traveled to Spain during the summers. So traveling to Spain and spending time in Spain when you're a kid does not actually make you Spanish. Well, then there was some question that perhaps maybe her mom was Spanish. Well, turns out no. Her mom is not Spanish at all. The internet sleuths did a deep dive into all the various accents that she has had over the years. When we first met her and she was on the Today Show, she appeared to have a very thick Spanish accent. And
married life is really nice. You know, it feels different. It really feels different, but I didn't think.
And over the years, it has dwindled to now where you can barely even hear it.
Very few ingredients. We have tomatoes. We have how do you say it? Cucumbers.
Now, many have assumed that because she spent more time here that she would have a better accent, but the truth is she apparently never had the accent to begin with. In fact, earlier this year, she has really clung to this whole idea that she is Spanish. She said that she moved to the United States when she was 19 years old to attend NYU.
Dresser and
So you
one
moved here
chair.
with your parents?
No. I moved here when I was 19 to go to NYU. And from my family lives in Spain. They live in Mallorca.
Okay. So yeah, that would make sense. You wouldn't know the pop culture of.
Well, I know no pop culture anywhere. Now I'm better, but I knew no pop culture.
But she grew up in Boston and graduated from high school in Boston. So she would have moved from Boston to New York, but she didn't come from Spain, and people believed that she was an immigrant, but she's not an immigrant. She has no actual physical ties to Spain, other the fact that she visited it when she was a child and her parents retired in Mallorca when she was 27 years old. What? Yes, I'm not even kidding. So people that have known her basically have said this. One of her people, someone that grew up with her said this. She's a liar. She was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. Her name is Hillary Hayward Thomas. The only tie she has to the Spanish culture is that her dad majored in Spanish while he was an undergrad at some college in Kansas. No clue what the angle is here, but just letting you know she's not Spanish. The accent is fake. Alex had a thing for Salma Hayek, and so Hillary moved in on him with this fake background. I don't know about that aspect, but that wasn't the only person that had more information about her background. So another former student said that, and someone else that knew her said this. Hillary attended Cambridge School of Weston in Massachusetts, along with her older brother, Jeremy. She also attended Boston University. No one in her family has a Spanish accent, and Hillary did not have an accent until she met Alec. Her parents are very well known in the Boston community. It is shocking to me that she or her agency has the power to cover this all up. How can they possibly delete videos and comments from the internet? Also, why are the news regs like Daily Mail and New York Post or Extra TV not picking this up? Now, that was actually back from earlier this year, and that came from Reddit. When people started, an internet sleuth on Twitter posted this amazing thread, and she actually tried to figure out like when was Hilaria or Hillary actually in Spain, because Hillary claimed that she actually grew up in Spain, but it turns out she didn't, because according to her mother's own bio, she actually was not born in Spain. She was born while her mom was in medical school. Her mom actually worked as a board certified internist. So a internist is a doctor that works with like adults and their internal adult pediatricians effectively. And she basically worked as an internist for several years. So she was a clinical instructor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. She was an assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. She worked literally at Harvard from 1992 to 2010. She also was in medical school. She graduated from medical school in 1986. So Hilaria was actually born when her mom was still in medical school in Boston. So she wasn't born in Mallorca. And then her mom worked as a doctor in the state of Massachusetts for her entire childhood. Hilaria went to high school at a very expensive academy for rich kids, I guess. I don't even know what it's called, but an expensive school, and graduated high school and was very much into dance. And then her dad was a lawyer. So she had parents that were affluent and they would spend time in Spain, but that did not actually make her Spanish. Now, a Twitter account that was Lenny Briscoe, she actually said that she had a friend that took classes with Hilario. So she was a yoga instructor, and she said, when you took Hilaria Baldwin's yoga classes, did she have a fake accent? And she said, in the beginning, no, but later, yes. And this was sort of something that her friends said from high school. So they all claim that she never had this accent. This was something that was developed after she met Alec. Now, when she met Alec in 2011, 2010, she would often refer to herself as Spanish. So she posted on 2012, she retweeted Ireland Baldwin, who said, got asked today how my mom is Spanish if I'm so white. And she responded, Hilaria said, have them ask you that again after we go tanning. And then she said, there was another tweet right around the time that she got married and says, what happens when you bring Spanish women into a New York City nail salon? A flamenco sing fest, of course. So she was claiming that her mother was of Spanish descent and that she was of Spanish descent, but she's actually not Spanish. She also again referred to herself as Spanish in 2011, and she said, Alec Baldwin actually tweeted to her and said, I gotta end this with some Gypsy Kings. The Gypsy Kings are this huge sort of flamenco band. They are very well known in Spain, and it says, I dedicate this to all yoga teachers from Spain. And she said, this is everything a Spanish yoga teacher could ever want. Gracias, corazón. So implying that she was a Spanish yoga teacher. She also said that she also tweeted this to Alec Baldwin, Spanish people, when I was a kid, this didn't even exist in Spain. So implying that she was a child that grew up in Spain, which is actually not true. And another person that actually grew up with her said this, confirmed from both. She did not have an accent, and they both think they have yearbooks somewhere that it was weird artsy high school, so it doesn't have the traditional layout. She might have had a senior page that would have had her name and picture on it, which they then had and showed that she was sort of this fair-skinned girl with like dark blonde hair and not the jet black hair in which her hair was actually dyed to now. The sleuths also uncover her grandmother's obituary, her grandfather's obituary. It turns out she has lineage here from the American Revolution, and her mom was like a 2 or 3 generation individual that has from Boston. And her heritage is actually not at all Spanish. There is no ethnic heritage to Spanish other than her fact that apparently her father studied Spanish and wanted his kids to learn Spanish, which isn't a bad thing. It's absolutely never a bad thing to have your child learn a second language, and it's extremely helpful in this world, especially in the United States where Spanish is the second most common language. With all of this mounting evidence coming out that she's not actually Spanish and she's actually American, and actually her parents are American that just happen to live in Mallorca now, which is an island in Spain, she came out with a video on Instagram basically saying, yeah, I'm a white girl. Check it out.
And I think that we can be different parts of ourselves with different people. And I'm somebody who I feel really lucky that I grew up with 2 cultures. I grew up speaking 2 languages. I grew up, did I always do it well, through your awkward years and, trying to be more this or be more that. I've said some things about like, oh, she's a white girl. Yes, I am a white girl. I am a white girl. And let's be very clear that Europe, has a lot of white people in there. And my family is white. I'm, ethnically, I am a mix of many, many, many things. Culturally, I grew up with the 2 cultures. So it's really as simple as that.
And then when asked about her accents, she sort of doubled down and said that she vacillates between speaking English and Spanish. And so when she speaks English a lot or speaks Spanish a lot, her accents can kind of mix. Now, I don't know about that. I spoke both languages for quite some time and I didn't have that issue, but I'm not her. She also admitted that her name is not Hilaria, her name is Hillary, and that if you called her Hillary, she would respond to you and it's okay if you call her Hillary, but that she decided to merge Hilaria and Hillary because her parents actually called her Hilaria when she was in Spain, and that's what they call her now. And so because of that, she is Hilaria, even though she was born Hillary. All right, so she believes that her cultural identity is Spanish because she spent time in Spain as a child and because she also spent time here. So she believes that culturally she's both American and Spanish. I don't believe that to be true. Now, Alec Baldwin says on his Instagram that, he went on this rambling thing for like 8 minutes about how, Epstein and lies and TMZ and garbage and consider the source. But in fact, the source was actually his wife, Hilaria, or Hillary, who effectively said,
They want to say that I've said that my mother is Spanish. And my family, they all live there and they all speak Spanish and English. But I've never said that my mother was Spanish. My family is a big mix of so many different things and all stuff that we're like super, super proud of because it's amazing, I think, to be a big mix of things.
Said, no, my mom is not Spanish. We are not Spanish. We are a multitude of things. Like, we are a blend of all kinds of different cultures. But the funny thing is she's literally never talked about what the cultures are she is and instead claimed a culture that is not actually hers. So spending time in a country and claiming that as your own culture are not actually the same thing. And there's no sort of indication that she lived there, but more visited there. So with all that being said, there's been a lot of pushback online. People are accusing her of cultural appropriation. Immigrants who have come from Spain or other Latin American countries are outraged that she would claim a heritage or a ethnicity that she is not. And she is sort of it's a slap in the face to other immigrants that have come here, and it's not representative of their lives. And she has been basically parading this idea that she is a Spanish woman that is sort of integrated into this world under false pretenses. Other people are labeling her sort of the 2020 Rachel Doziel, who was the woman who was from Washington, who worked for the NAACP, and she was also a professor of African American studies at a university in Washington, who was born white but claimed that she was transracial and black. So here's the thing, and here's my opinion after all it's said and done. You can love a culture, you can love a language. I love Spanish culture, I love Spanish language, I love Spanish food, I love Spanish music, I love Spanish art, I love Latin American history, I love Latin American culture. But I've never in my time ever claimed those as my own. Instead, you have a very fine line. You can be influenced by a culture if you spend time there, but you cannot claim that culture as your own just because your parents live there now that you're an adult. You grew up in the United States and visited Spain during the summers. That's not the same. If they had a home that they visited or they traveled there, that's not the same as growing up there. It's also not the same as being Spanish. So her identity is questionable to me, and it's like, did she decide to do this sort of as a grift because Alec was, wanted to marry a woman of Latina or Hispanic heritage? People claimed he had an affinity for Salma Hayek, and he was really sort of into that specific look. I don't know if that to be true. He's always had been very proud of the fact that she was Spanish. She admits now that she told her husband that she was born in Boston, and Alex says that all of this is fake news. I don't think it's fake news to claim that you are something that you are not. To be interviewed by a Spanish speaking outlet like Hola and claim that your native language is Spanish. Your native language is not Spanish, and that interview actually takes away opportunities from immigrant women or other women from Spain that are really ethnically Spanish, right? That are not she would never deal with the same sort of issues that an actual immigrant woman in the United States would, because she's not an immigrant. Not to mention, it's not her culture. So you can teach your kids Spanish, but that doesn't mean they're Spanish. You can go to a country, but that doesn't mean you're Spanish. And long story short, if you have a 10-year grift where you pretend like you're Spanish and an accent that fades in and out, eventually people on the internet are going to figure out your story, and you're going to cover it up by saying it's fake news, which is kind of ironic because Alec Baldwin spent the last 4 years playing Donald Trump at SNL, and now it's fake news that people have literally uncovered the truth that his wife is not Spanish. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.